Well folks, we finally made it. Spider-Man Brand New Day is just around the corner, with more and more hype being built up every single day, with more footage of the movie being shown. Maybe it's actually a little too much, but we don't need to talk about that. With Brand New Day coming out soon, I thought it would be fun to join in on what everyone else is doing, and rewatch the original Home trilogy, to give my quick but definitive thoughts on these movies. As this version of Spider-Man is quite controversial, I'm not going to go super in-depth for each of the movies, as I don't want this video to be 2 hours long. A bunch of people that are way smarter than me are doing that, and I have already shared some opinions I have on this version of the character before. Anyways, enough rambling, let's get started with the first and best movie of the entire trilogy, that being Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming came out not too long after Civil War, and I think it was a really good continuation. For the most part, that is, but that's not really the most important right now. Peter's nice and soft personality definitely got toned up compared to Civil War. However, I don't really think that's the biggest problem, and I do think that Tom Holland does a great job playing him. For some reason, there seems to be this common misconception that if you criticize anything MCU Spider-Man related, that you just hate Tom Holland, when in reality that couldn't be further from the truth. I love this guy, and I think he does an excellent job at playing Spider-Man. Obviously, one of the main things surrounding this version of Spider-Man is the fact that he's set in the MCU and is a pretty big part of the Avengers, since he looks up to Tony Stark. People criticize this by saying that, oh, in the comics Peter was always alone, and never joined a team like the Avengers and in fact always hated them. However, that's just not true. Yeah, Peter was alone a lot of the time and he made fun of the teams any chance he got, but at the end of the day he kind of always admired them, and has always tried or just straight up joined the Avengers or an Avengers related team for a bit. So I don't really mind Peter having Iron Man as a mentor here. It makes sense within the context of Civil War, and it's still implied that the whole Uncle Ben thing happened, so I don't really see— oh wait, never mind. Due to being connected to Iron Man, this Spider-Man also has a bunch of fancy tech available to him, which I also don't find to be a problem, as it makes up a pretty nice character arc that Peter has to go through this movie, where Peter realizes that he doesn't need to be an Avenger or have all the fancy tech available to him to be the hero he wants to be, and how he's also better off trying to enjoy his life instead of rushing to be the next big guy in town, which is told in a more street level way, which can be really appreciated, as the main plot is kinda just Peter trying to take down a villain cause he's a villain, with that villain being the Vulture, which is another really good character in this movie. Him being Liz's dad adds a little bit of more drama to the story, and gives us some amazing scenes like the one where he's threatening Peter in his car. I also like how even though this is a more light-hearted and low-stakes movie, due to the situation he's in, it still results in Peter having to make difficult decisions surrounding his personal life. I was going to say it'd be pretty cool to see him in Brand New Day again, even for a little bit, but then I remembered he's been with Morbius for like 5 years or something. I actually don't wanna know. Unfortunately, however, for as good as Peter and Vulture are in this movie, they're kind of the only characters that are really good, as every other character in this movie is kind of just straight up bad, in the sense that they're all just a bunch of nothing burgers, with the only redeeming quality they have is being likable, especially when it comes to Peter's supporting cast, which I think is really a shame, since some of the best Spider-Man stories stem from Peter's supporting cast. Like, as much as I like the CEO memes and think Ned is a funny guy, if we were actually to take a look at this movie seriously, what actually is there to Ned besides the fact that he's just the funny best friend? Same thing with Liz. What is there to her character besides the fact that she's just the love interest? What is there to MJ besides the fact that she's this mysterious potential love interest? I do think the characters are really enjoyable on screen and the actors do a good job, so I don't mind this as much as other people do, but I can acknowledge the fact that it brings the movie down, especially since this is a consistent problem throughout the entire trilogy, and once we get to Far From Home I stop being a lot more lenient on it, due to the fact that these characters on their own start becoming less and less enjoyable as the trilogy goes on. Speaking of enjoyable stuff though, comedy is a really big part of this trilogy and I honestly really like it, especially in Homecoming where I think it's at its best. Maybe it's just that my humor's broken, but I unironically find a lot of these scenes funny.
It's been an honor, Spider-Man.
What are you doing here? There's a dance.
I'm looking at porn.
Hey, how you doing? Don't worry about it, I got you.
Yes! Yes! Hey, big guy, quit moving around! Sorry, sir, so sorry. I mean, before I met Tony,
So, how long you been here?
Long enough to be awkward. Boss wants to see you.
Is he here too?
In the toilet? No, he's upstate.
Flushing, silent scream, flash scream, everybody screaming. There were purple lasers, smoke everywhere. It was it's like a Bon Jovi concert.
As you know, we made it out alive, and that's the important thing. We couldn't bear to lose a student on a school trip. Not again.
Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, thanks to the Spider-Man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Spider-Man.
One of the most common complaints around this movie is the fact that Peter's too lame in it, and honestly, I don't really agree. Like, yeah, he's objectively lame, but if anything, that's what makes him cool to me. All he is a kid with no experience who's in way over his head but is still trying to help people. And it's satisfying and feels earned when we get to see him actually do that. There are some parts in this movie where he's maybe bumbling around a little too much, and that has to do with what I said earlier with them toning up everything surrounding Peter's character compared to Civil War. And it does cause for some inconsistencies, but it's honestly not the biggest problem for me. Something that is a pretty big problem for me, however, is the ending of the movie. The whole reason for giving Peter high tech was for him to realize that he doesn't need it once he loses it and still saves the day. However, after all that, Tony just rewards Peter by giving him the Stark suit back. And it completely undermines Peter's arc in this movie. I really do think it would have fit Peter's arc more if Tony Stark offered Peter the Stark suit back instead of the Iron Spider. And then we had Peter make his own Spider-Man suit at the end of the movie. But then again, if Homecoming did this, No Way Home would kind of just be doing the same thing, even though it kind of already is without them doing this, so that's kind of a whole another problem on its own, but we're not talking about No Way Home yet. Instead, now we're moving on to Far From Home, as that's pretty much all I have to say about Homecoming. On to Far From Home now, and my god, how did we get such a big departure in quality compared to the last movie? Peter is so heavily mischaracterized and inconsistent throughout this whole movie that it can basically just be called character assassination, and that's not really a term I use as lightly as a bunch of other people. Peter refuses to help with the elementals and gives a bunch of dumb and inconsistent excuses to go back to his vacation. Not only is this insanely out of character for Spider-Man, let alone just this version of Spider-Man, as we've seen him go out of his way to help people when he knows he can, but it also doesn't even make sense that he wants to go back to his vacation. Like, I know that he wants to relax, but for how long? A day? A week? For all he knows, the elementals can pop up mid-vacation and kill everyone. Peter's also supposed to be a genius, but he's just really stupid in this movie for some reason. He almost kills Brad on the bus, and while yes, this is a funny scene, it serves no purpose in the plot and could be completely avoided.
Oh my god, what just happened? Just cancel the strike. Cancel the strike, Peter. Cancel the strike. Oh my god. Oh, really good. Just sit back down, cancel the strike. Cancel the strike. Try again, cancel the strike. Cancel the strike. Well, how did that? Just pick it up. Cancel the strike. Listen to him, Peter. Cancel the strike. What are you doing, you absolute moron? Cancel the strike.
Speaking of the Edith glasses, Peter gives them to Beck because once again, he wants to go spend time with MJ during his vacation. There's also this really big part of the movie where Peter's really worried about using his Spider-Man powers in Europe, because then everybody would figure out that he's Spider-Man. I mean, it's not like it matters anyway. At the end of the movie, Peter makes a Spider-Man themed suit to fight Mysterio, and then takes it back to New York with him, so now everybody knows that Spider-Man was in Europe. So there goes that plotline, I guess. And if all that wasn't bad enough, we still have to talk about the barely non-existent character arcs that Peter has to go through in this movie. The movie really wants you to believe that it had a whole Spider-Sense arc to Peter, but they really only give us somewhat of a resolution to that, as the only time this was mentioned earlier in the movie is like once. It's a good scene, but I just don't like how it's tied down and forced to be some sort of triumphant resolution to a non-existent character arc. Which really sucks, because I feel like the whole Spider-Sense thing really had potential if they didn't give up like 15 minutes in. Then there's the other character arc, where Peter learns responsibility and realizes that he doesn't need to be the next Iron Man, which is immediately followed up by a reference showcasing how similar Peter is to Iron Man. I really don't know why it's such a consistent thing for these movies to have Peter repeat the same arc over and over again, and then completely ignore it once the resolution is done. It's really annoying. Peter is easily the worst character in this movie, and considering the fact that he's the main one, that's not really the greatest look. All the other side characters continue to be bland and boring, and are way less enjoyable than Homecoming. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because Brad takes up like half the movie and nobody likes him, or that Ned just spends the entire movie being with Betty, which is really stupid. The villain Spider-Man's fighting this time around is Mysterio, which, while definitely has a lot more problems than I remember him having, is still a good character in my book. Yeah, he's really tied to Tony Stark, but he still hates Spider-Man at the end of the day, and that's good enough for me. I think the whole villain reveal surrounding him was genuinely done really well, and he gives us some of the best scenes in the movie with the illusions, which I really wish we got more of. The final battle with all the drones is pretty awesome, even though it starts leading into a bunch of dumb things that are just never explained and don't make any sense. Like, when on earth did Mysterio have time to record this message? He could have never had the time to do this. To end off talking about this movie in a positive sense, I think one of the dumbest criticisms against this movie is that it's not set in New York. People like this are always the ones clamoring for things like comic accuracy, yet completely ignore the fact that Peter left New York by like issue 6 in the original comics. So yeah, this movie is kind of just very bad, however I'd be lying to say I didn't enjoy it every time I rewatched it. So I'm fine enough with calling it just mid, 5 out of 10. Now we're on to No Way Home, which is probably going to be the shortest section of this video as I've already made an entire video on this movie, which I would recommend checking out if you want to see more of my thoughts on this movie. But basically, all the Mysterio stuff is dumb and handled poorly. Doctor Strange and Peter are heavily mischaracterized and really stupid. Half of the villain's motivations are bad and inconsistent. The Spider-Man are also kind of inconsistent and constantly make dumb choices as well. The movie expects you to believe anything that it throws at you without explanation. The inside-out suit exists, and the integrated suit also exists, and it really doesn't take much critical brain thinking skills to figure out that this movie is riddled with really bad writing problems sometimes. However, I'm gonna take a moment to do something I never really do and talk about some of the things I do really like about this movie. I think the performances everybody gives is excellent, and everybody really excels in this movie, especially people like the Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. He absolutely kills it in the role, and the condo fight scene is one of my favorite live-action Spider-Man moments. Despite inconsistencies to his character to get him here, I do actually think that Peter's arc in this movie is good for once. And Aunt May's death was done really well. The final ending scene with the final swingsuit is really impactful and another one of my favorite live-action Spider-Man moments. I also adore seeing the 3 Spider-Men interact together. To this day, it still doesn't really feel real to see them all talking, and it's another showcase of how good the performances are. Going back to the fight scenes, I think the choreography is really good. So, you have a really overly glazed movie that everybody says is peak, and while it does have its great moments, the movie is also filled with a lot of mischaracterizations and dumb writing. Combine all that together and you get a nice meal of a 5.5 out of 10. So there you have it. That's the MCU Spider-Man Home Trilogy. Not really the best trilogy out there, is it? With how divisive this Spider-Man is, I'm honestly convinced that this is one of the most glazed and hated versions of Spider-Man of all time. I'm also very interested to see how the public perception of this trilogy will change after Brand New Day comes out. Whether it's hate or love, I feel like it's guaranteed that some sort of great switch-up is upon us. But what do you guys think? Make sure to comment down below what you agree and disagree with, and if you're excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day. So with all that being said, I'll see you on the next video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Or first said it.
That was a real light bulb moment. Whoever that was.
Yeah, for sure.
No way Ned Leeds being the CEO of Sex.